Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Higher Fire Inspire. It's always so good to do these podcast episodes, like I've mentioned several times. It's always an amazing learning for me. Today, again, we're going to be talking about a topic that is very close to my heart. If anybody knows me, knows that I'm all mush and warm when it comes to HR related stuff. I'm always going around talking about how you can make things better by doing very, very simple things internally. And, this is, by the way, this is Lizanne Dsouza. I am the founder here at Lizanne Careers for people who are listening in on the first time. We are a recruitment agency based out in Mumbai. Started the business off by helping a lot of startups set up, build their teams from scratch. In fact, I remember people would come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking of starting this brand." And that is when they would reach out to me for staff. So, I've worked with companies before they were even like when the idea was sort of just an idea and not even decided in terms of what kind of teams, So that's where I've worked, and it's always been such a fun process. And today, like I said, we're going to be talking about something that's really close to my heart and something that I'm very passionate about. We're talking about workplace culture. The topic for today is workplace culture. Whose responsibility is it, and why is it important? I feel like in the last few years, I think in a country like India, the whole idea of a healthy workplace culture is really catching up to people. A few years ago, people didn't really care. The likes of our parents, they just went to work, worked for the paycheck, and they stayed there for 30 years, 35 years. And they came home and they never complained about anything about their boss. I don't remember anybody saying anything about their bosses at home. My dad would just come home, have his meal, watch his TV, and that was it. But today, the conversation around workplace culture about your boss, about your environment, about your co-workers is almost the center of any dinner table conversation or drinks with your friends on Friday night, right? It's just like, oh my God, can you believe what my boss did? Or this happened. Like that's how conversations start nowadays. So today, we're going to deep dive into it. I've got Aditya Oza, who I have actually very recently connected with. It's someone that I've never worked with. I really hope that we can, because he has a fabulous brand, and that's what attracted me towards going to him and asking him if he'd like to be a part of this. Is the brand? It's called EMotorad, which is an e-bike that they have come up with. I'm gonna put the floor in because I feel like there's so much new tech around this conversation when it comes to electronic vehicles. So I'd love for him to take us through that. So, hi Aditya, thank you so much for being here, first of all.
Hi, Liz. Thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this. Not just because you are doing a great series of podcasts, but of course for the topic of discussion that you chose me to come and speak on, and it is of the highest value to me as well. So it's a complete privilege to be a part of the show.
That's awesome. So, Aditya, why don't, before I have some stats, which I always do a little bit of research, and I like giving our audience a little bit of, meat before they can get into it, just like about what we're going to be talking about. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the brand and your career graph and, how you came into where you are right now?
Fantastic. So I think, Liz, I'll start off with EMotorad, and of course I'll connect my journey to it. So EMotorad is a e-bike company. We sell e-bikes across the globe. Of course, we are a company with a global vision. Currently, we do countries like UAE, Nepal, Japan, and of course India. So the vision of the company is to make a name for India in the EV two-wheeler space. And e-bike across the globe is the most adopted EV model that has gone out. As we speak, last week we happened to launch a European market, and so now will be available in Germany, Italy, Netherlands, France, and Spain. So Spain is our headquarters, and of course we're trying to build this brand as a luxurious premium e-bike at affordable price for the masses. So that's about the brand. I along with my current CEO Kunal, did my masters together. We ended up working together, and we used to brainstorm on so many startups. There came a point where we wanted to even open that tapri shop outside the college, because we could always see them make so much money. And then we figured that everyone were asking for our bikes to go somewhere, so we actually started renting out our own bikes and started buying second-hand vehicles to rent out, and we scaled it up to 84 bikes, and that's where a bigger company came and acquired the entire thing. Kunal joined them as a CEO. I happened to move to a corporate because I come from a very humble background, and making salaried money was of high importance to family.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I joined corporate in Dubai, so I ended up working there. I ended up working in a corporate in India too, but it was for a very brief period of time. So the cultural difference was existing at that point too. And then I get a call from Kunal, and I came back and joined EMotorad. Of course, we were planning to start something in the commute industry, since we belonged there and had our first instinct there. So yeah, here I am at EM now.
Also, what can you tell us about the recent funding that you have received? Because I've been seeing it on LinkedIn everywhere, but I thought since I am having a conversation with you today, I'll give you a chance to tell us about how that process has been.
Okay, so Liz, to a lot of people surprised, we are in the process of raising our current round. We have done 100 crores in revenue in a short period of 2 years. So that's an achievement we've had. So until and unless our current round is not closed, we are not disclosing what we are
Well,
raising.
good luck
But
with that, because
yeah,
everything is going to change post funding, right? We know
I know.
I've seen businesses journeys pre funding and post funding, and everything changes. So I'm very excited for you and to have that experience. I have seen a lot of my clients, and again, Aditya, I think what you just the little bit that you told us about the brand, I feel like I'm a big believer of sustainability and, like, the environment and in reducing your carbon footprint. It's something that is very close to my heart. Of course, as people who live, in this environment, we can only do so much because we don't really have a lot of effect or everything. But then there are people like you that are changing the way, the transport is being used. And I spoke to you the other day, and really funnily, I mentioned how my idea of bicycles, like, just look at how privileged and entitled I am. Okay, you can judge me fully. Is people using it for exercise purpose. I've completely forgotten about the regular dabba wala or the doodh wala or your normal, now even Swiggy guys or like smaller restaurants, right? They use bicycles to deliver stuff. And what a saving grace an e-bike is for that community. And when I was talking to you, I was just thinking, what is the point of having a bike that's powered if I need to work out? I apologize for my ignorance, first of all. And but that is how short-sighted somebody can be, right? When it comes up to a business of this. So then quickly tell me the vision for EMotorad. I'd like to know what is the target audience and how did you all think about this idea before we get into like all the other stuff.
Fantastic. So I think in terms of use cases, it's the beginning, right? People are finding their own use cases, right? Recently, Sonam Wanchuk had a couple of his people, and they went across in the Ladakh glacier to gift across one of the glaciers to Dalai Lama, and they used our bike, and they said for this terrain, biking can only be done using a powered motor.
Yeah.
Imagine you're going to office list. Like if you're going to office, you don't want to sweat when you reach office, right? But when you go home, so you can always pedal and go to work, and when you go home, you can throttle and go back. I mean, it is always about if you
yeah.
the other way around. Yeah. And if you're going to gym, it could be other way around. Why do you want to walk on a treadmill or a cycle inside the gym? Why don't you pedal across? Since you're tired after the gym, why don't you throttle and go back? So use cases are to be found, and it's a fantastic way of having a clean and healthy commute in place, right? So of course, carbon neutral is one part, but it also affects your health. Today you want to sleep on mattresses, which makes you feel healthy. Today you want to do so many things. So why not commute should reflect that too. So overall, if you'll see, there are so many ideas that are people coming up with in use cases, and they are driving their own use cases. But majorly, the thing that we're trying to address is there are two parts of EV, right? The infrastructure today, we have this infrastructure, but imagine a girl in Rajasthan going to her school, or a farmer in Haryana going to their farms. Will they have the charging infrastructure in place? So we came up with bikes which you can charge just like your mobile phone. So that was one problem we solved. The second bigger problem and the bigger elephant that nobody is talking about today is the after sales service. People are not equipped enough to do the after sales service of so many EVs that are yet to come. So all our bikes are repairable at any local shop, any local bicycle shop. And in India, every Nukkad has a panka shop and a bicycle shop. So all mechanical components there, or electronics are plug and place. You take them out, ship it to us, we'll replace it within 3 days. So that's how we actually address these two bigger problems that are hanging around EVs.
I think maybe you thought about the after service from your tapri idea, right? Like open a tapri, you're like we need to like figure this out as well. Amazing, Aditya. Thank you so much. I love that use. What is the word that you use? Sorry, I'm so like when it comes to consumer goods, I don't know much. User
So yeah, so I think user benefits could be one too. Um,
There's ways to use this bike, right? In different ways, basically.
yeah, the use cases are
use
fantastically
cases.
amazing.
Yes, use cases.
Yep.
Okay, amazing. I like that. So, but today we're going to deep dive a little bit more than just talking about this business. Because, of course, we can go on talking about your journey and everything. But one thing that we're going to be talking about today, which you said that you're really passionate about, I'm really passionate about, is workplace culture, right? So, first of all, I just want to start off by saying every company has a culture, right? Whether it is a culture where everybody is just waiting to get paid, or it's a culture where people support each other, where they're creative, where you're allowed to come in and do things differently, where you're able to walk into your boss's office, and where change um, is nurtured. Okay, any of these cultures, it's whether it's good or bad is secondary. The first thing is that every company has a culture. The aim for a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners is I want a good culture. Hardly anybody knows where to start, right? So they're always striving to keep that good culture with the attempt of, oh, if I have a good culture, I'll be able to retain staff. But that's a very one sided or one small aspect of why you need to have a good culture. Of course, staff retention is a good thing, but sometimes it's also good to let go of people, after 1 year, after 2 years. I mean, if you have somebody in a junior admin role, after 1 2 years their career is going to progress, and if they leave or you don't have someone any role for them, then that person has to leave. So we have a natural retention rate that we should be happy with as well, right? So every company also needs to figure that out, and culture goes so much beyond just retaining staff, right? The other thing that I wanted to talk about is, regardless of whether an organization is small, big, startup, traditional, that non-tangible aspect of the business, which is when you walk into the room, the language that is used, the activities that they have, the surroundings of it, the people, how they interact with each other, all of this comes down to culture. So we can't really say, oh no, we are a very open company and we appreciate people, but don't bring your religion into the office. Don't bring your personal problems into the office. You cannot talk about your political views. Then you are not open. So you can't have this but that. You have to, like, and that's why I think people have this state of confusion when it comes to culture. Who are we? Who are we is a big foundation for what we do, how we do it, when we do it, how well do we do it. All of the, you're laughing, I can see you. All of these latter questions come from that base question of who are we. And to me,
Right.
that is what that non-tangible culture is, right? That I say, I say it with so much passion because I really believe in it. The thing that I wanted to talk about, which I will go into detail, is I think when people ask me what kind of culture should I, think about, my one answer is two words: good faith. When you think
Yeah.
of
Oh
setting
wow.
up a culture, when you think of setting up a, how do I treat this situation? My advice to them is in good faith. Good faith to
Absolutely.
me means
That's such a good word, Liz. To be honest, like amazing, brilliant stuff. Yeah.
it's a really common word in business law, actually. So I lived in New Zealand, and good faith is the basis of a lot of decision making when it comes to setting up any contracts or any law, union laws, employment. Yeah, I've done a lot. So good faith is dealing in honesty. Having empathy. basically an implied duty that everybody has, whether it's an employee or an employer. And I think
Right.
if culture is set up in good faith, then you have most of your work done. So after my beautiful, lovely speech about work culture, we're going to get into the questions straight away, because Aditya, I have a lot of questions, and I really feel like, this will really help a lot of people understand how to set up culture within their organization, and also for applicants or people who are looking for jobs to understand what culture works for them. Because let's be honest, it is a two-way street, right? So the first question is, how is workplace culture, like what is workplace culture, and how important do you think it is for people to implement it?
Fantastic. I think a lot that you spoke about workplace culture, this should be written down in a post, and this is something people should refer to. And I agree with most part of it, and I'll be very completely honest with you. Any two people cannot have same beliefs about a culture, right? And that is where shared value comes into picture. So I'll give you a little story. When four of us started and founded this company, I exactly remember, I think it was five of us back then, probably one or two people have joined us, and we used to talk about culture. And just after that meeting, we'd step out and laugh about it, like, it's just five of us and we are emphasizing on culture today. And this happens so often, like the grind of a startup in initial days is so different. You're looking for customer acquisition, you're looking for those MVP launches, you're looking for products getting ready, you're looking for recruitment happening, but you're not focusing on the fact that culture is such an important thing. So coming down to your question, what a culture is. So one thing that you mentioned before I go to the question, I want to address this. I always say this, that people think that they'll build a great culture, but it is not the truth, right? You always find your culture, you never build it up. Your inner values, your inner beliefs actually impact so much, and when we come together cumulatively, it is the reflection of ourselves at the end of the day. So if you say honesty is going to be a part of my culture, but if you're not honest, it's going to reflect end of the day. So I think that's where core leadership comes into picture too. So when I got to know this is about culture, I never did this, but I happened to go on Google and search across what does culture definition means. So it read like, shared beliefs, shared values, attitude, and assumptions.
Yeah.
And I believe, and when I think about it from a perspective of actually setting up, because all of us have set up cultures in our own organization. Some of us have done it intentionally. Some of us just happen to find the culture that exists.
Yeah.
So I think the value and people is something that comes first when it comes to the culture. The core team's leadership, their skill set, the entire support and grind of the team and the leadership, and in the end comes the practices and the environment that you stick in. So all of these together impact what our organizational culture looks like. So it is not a one-way, two-way stream. All of these have their own special values in the organizational culture.
I love that. I absolutely love that, and that is so true and like on point. And it's culture are shared values, and that is why even the recruitment process, when you're recruiting the people, you have a sense of the person in terms of what value system they have, right? And if it doesn't fit in with you, they may be able to do the work, but people are not going to like them. So you have to get them into an individual role, maybe like a graphic designer or an accountant that works individually, which can happen, but you need to identify that as well. You have to be smart enough to be able to say, okay, this person can do this job, but they don't fit culturally. But only for these kind of roles can I have somebody who doesn't fit into that culture of the organization, because they work very individually. And I really believe that um, like together people do better. And if you have only one person who's coming into the room and saying we are, and transparency and honesty and hardworking, and the rest of them are like whatever, I don't care, like you're never going to see that happen. And it doesn't matter what motivational quotes you have on your wall or on your website, and if it's if it's not believed and it's not shared by everyone, it's very quickly going to fail. So yeah, that's right. I think that also answers the question of who do you think are the people to implement it, and we would say everyone. So that makes sense. Okay. I also want to, but I want to deep dive a little bit, because I've always said this. Like I always feel like culture needs to be top down. So what do you think then is who do you think is responsible for the culture of the organization? The people that work there or the management? Like, where does it start? It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing?
So I think culture has a very big phenomenon. So there are three things, and this is what we see in our culture too. Influence is a big factor when it comes to culture, right? If you go out and join a sports team tomorrow, you'll be influenced by their culture, and that's why the core people, and the core could be, on day one, it's you and the peon, then you both will make up the culture that you will make, and so the core is the core team that we talk about. It's not irrespective of management hierarchy. It's irrespective of what place they are belonging to. But those initial few people are always going to influence the ones who will join in later. I see so many times people coming across, and when we hire from different places, even the junior most position have so much impact, and they're so confident, and I think that's a reflection of our culture. And then they end up letting the other person open up, feel that freedom, feel that uh, um, uh, uh, authority to bring across a change, or to deliver at the epitome of their productivity. I think that all happens, and it's everyone's responsibility across the organization. You cannot come out and say, boss, this is the guy who does most for the culture. The one person cannot do it. It's a team game, and it is right from the top to the bottom, everyone has to be a part of the culture, and that's how it's supposed to be formed.
Yeah, I mean, we look at amazing companies, like we want to duplicate their culture, the likes of the Google and the Instagram, the Facebook. Those are the kind of cultures we're like, oh, that's what we want to achieve. But sometimes the bigger the company gets, and you probably have seen this problem more than me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people, but I have a very small team, so I don't really have this, issue. But a lot of people, as the team is growing, how do you ensure then that the culture, the desired culture at least, is one that's implemented through all the levels of hierarchy, right up to, like you said, maybe the security staff and everyone that are, kind, sweet, like, just, yeah. How do you ensure that then?
True. I think these are the things that corporates need to learn a lot from startup.
Yeah.
Because when corporates scale, they scale at a very small, very, very slow pace. Startups scale at a very fast pace. And that's why the startups that can keep up with the cultural identity, even at a larger scale, have been able to implement the culture well. Like, it's the definition is very simple. If it exists when you scale, then you have set up the foundation right. So, like we mentioned, like we were discussing, if the influential part of the culture is there, then every one of you is equally responsible for that to happen. So, at the core, if the culture is set across right correctly, I think it's just gonna spread. People will find their way and fit themselves into your culture. They will bring the toxicity, but your culture should be able to battle across the toxicity too. And I think that is the foundation of. So, so many times, and this is what happens when people start concentrating on building culture later on, or improving it. It's not possible at all. And I have discussed, like, you can only improve it so much. You can bring in some policies which might have a impact at certain level, but overall the bigger impact comes when the drive happens, and for a fact that you could be out in the mountains for 3 months, come back and have the same culture flowing across. So I think that's beautiful. Everybody, the previous question was so right. Like, everybody plays a role, and that happens. Then it's a chain effect.
So, Aditya, that was actually pretty cool that you talked about toxicity and a toxic work culture. Because my next question, then, we're talking about this amazing work culture and, which we're going to go deep into. But what is a toxic work culture then? Like, what is the definition of a toxic work culture according to you?
So I think anything that's not great ends up becoming toxic for some or the other place. To be very honest, see, with culture, you cannot have 70-30 kind of a ratio. It has to be great in all aspects, or certain aspects will. But a great culture does bring in tolerance, right? Tolerance is a big part of culture too.
Wow, I love
So
that.
if we talk about, so if with uh, cultures that have bad influences coming in, the tolerance levels goes down, and then everything pinches. So I'll give you an example, and you probably can relate to it. Imagine you go to your favorite hotel chain who have treated you well all across. Your employees and you yourself are walking into your workspace, and you're getting treated all across. And then with them, you are letting go of those 100 murders too, just because for a fact that deep down the value system, the liking, the treatment has always been great. And that is something that is when when you have a toxic culture, the tolerance levels are really low. Every little thing is a concern, is a bigger concern to employees. So all the fights, all the dramas, all the mental issues that comes through, that happens only in a toxic work culture. I just say anything that does not become a great, so for the management, the founders, even for the employees, if your work culture isn't at the topmost, you always have a struggle to take it up there. Otherwise it's toxic at some or the other level. The worse your culture is, it is basically there is a bit pint of toxicity in all cultures. So I just say, like, everything that affects the mental and physical well-being, that does not let people perform at the highest level, that plays around with the um, uh, ability of somebody to bring in change, to deliver their daily task, is everything falling under toxic work culture. We talk about politics, we talk about gossiping, we talk about all these are aspects of toxic culture. But end of the day, these are all reflections of how low level of tolerance do you have.
That's absolutely right, because if you have people, there are going to be discussions and there is going to be gossip. The tolerance level is what makes it toxic. Or no, if it's fun gossip, it's not really affecting your performance, then who cares, right? But when it just becomes so bad that you have a new person coming in and they almost feel bullied by this happening, that's when it is toxic, right? I don't want to go into like bullying, because I can sit here and talk about it all day. It's terrible.
I
Okay,
think bullying is a interesting part of work culture too, and I think the only problem is that we've seen bullying. A lot of us have seen bullying right from the school days, so we believe it's a part and parcel of life, which is not true.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a very interesting topic, and probably you can have a complete podcast going on bullying itself.
Oh my God. Yes, yes, I will. It is quite a sensitive topic. I also feel like since we mentioned it, I feel like you said, it's quite a part and parcel of the Indian culture. We have this attitude of says chalta hai. And it's not such a big deal. Arey nahi yaar, they didn't mean it like that. Arey jaane dena. These kind of words that we've grown up with, like we've
Yeah.
taken them. So even when we go to a new workplace, if somebody says something or something, we're like, arey yaar, it's okay, I don't care. Or like jaane de, I don't care. Or just okay.
Then it increases from
Yeah. Okay, so tell me now. It's great. I love this conversation because you're actually hitting all the stuff that I wanna ask you next. So, what are the steps that you've taken at EMotorad to develop a healthy culture? What are some of the things that you've done?
Okay, so to kickstart, this we use for investor pitch also every time. We show our factory, and in the next picture, we show a pool table where people are chilling. It looks like a pub, that little space of. I think the biggest investment we made is making sure that the second people step into the office and the second they leave, every problem that they face should be our problem too. So so I'll tell you, there are endless steps. I mean, I cannot stop counting. Like they used to be like, there's nothing cool to do around here, because again, for the viewers, we are placed in outskirts of the city, right? So it's so hard for us to get people in the outskirts, and there is nothing good close by, because we are a manufacturing unit come office at the same space. So one of the struggles that people face, I'll give you examples, because there are, you have to take baby steps all the time.
Yeah.
So one of the issues that people faced was there was nothing good to eat here. So if they could not bring the lunch boxes, they will go and eat talagala of the local street corner and fall sick. And I think that was a bigger trouble. So we ended up opening a kitchen that works and serves breakfast. You see every one of our team members having breakfast in the office. All of us have lunch in the office too, and some of us who stay up till late any given particular day, and yeah, dinner too. So we don't have to tell them to put up; they are just chilling around, working across, and waiting for the dinners that time. Because but I think these are the steps we've taken. So opening up a kitchen for a company like us initially was such a big investment too. Like we do a completely, but I think solving problems at that scale and solving them, eradicating them completely is something. And fortunately, the cooks that we've got also a part of our culture, right? So we see them and they make such good homely food. Like everyone who comes into the office now, we never have to order food for people visiting our office and stuff, clients coming in, investors coming in. It's always there. So I think such baby steps we've got. So again, there are a lot of things that we did in terms of bringing in policies. So there is no leave policies in place, and that being said, we have the least numbers of leaves taken in a 100 CR plus revenue startup. We do not have leaves coming into picture. People go and still take care of work just because they take it up as their responsibility. We have one policy where nobody calls the management sir, and management is supposed to call everyone with sir and ma'am. So that's a fantastic way, and everyone calls you by the name, and you can always address them. It's reverse, and they always feel respected. And when you call somebody sir and ma'am as at a leadership position, you always end up talking to them with respect. So it works out so well, and they are never scared of talking to you because they talk to you with the first name. So there are so many these elements of things that have come.
Why don't you give me one more? I'm very impressed by all the stuff that you've done. I feel like people could get some really good little pearls out of it. Tell me one more thing.
So since we are in the outskirts, okay, so another one you can relate to that. When people join in, of course, a buddy is assigned, but then it's the buddy's responsibility to get his rent done, to make sure he's settled, to make sure he's found a place. Everything right from the day he will visit, the first day he comes to the office, he has everything in place. And since somebody has done it for you, you as a buddy want to do even better for the other person. So it flows again. So
that is
I think
so cool.
there's
That
such
is
things.
very cool. So basically, you're already fostering teamwork before the person even joins. That sense of yeah. I'm going to say something because of what you told me. I'm super impressed. I wanted to say that this kitchen thing to a lot of people may seem like a very big investment, and you yourself mentioned it, and I know that it is. But in the bigger scheme of things, in the scheme of productivity and making money, when you look at your books at the end of the year and how much money you have spent in terms of a dabba service or a kitchen compared to how much money you have made, it's very, very small. Because not only about people who live, far away from the city or because it's on outskirts, cooking, okay, I feel is the biggest waste of time. Because not only do you have to buy the ingredients, you have to cook at home, you have to pack your dabba, you have to do the dishes, you have to make sure that you're carrying it, you're going in the train, you're going in the bus, and you're carrying this little dabba of yours everywhere. So it is such a relief to just be able to come somewhere and be like, I'm going to get food. So I mean, amazing. And I just love it, Aditya. We're so in sync with this because my next question to you was, do you agree that setting up good culture costs money? It does, right? Like we all know that. It costs like a pool table, but our office, you want to have parking, you want to have no leaves. All of this costs money. How do you think smaller businesses can deal with this?
So I think when you look at it, we are also not. So the day one when we started, we were very small business
But
related
you
to
already said that
scale.
it was like 100 crores revenue, so now you
Yeah, but
can't say
today
small.
also we have bigger companies in picture that we want to be like, and move across and become a bigger business. But see, end of the day, the culture is a lot about ideas, right? It is a lot about what I can do to make you feel comfortable, to make you come to office thinking, to make you first of all get up from your bed excited about the day, and can I do it too, and can you do it too, and can we together go and say, hey, I'm gonna nail it today. If that feeling doesn't come every day, then probably you are working at a wrong place, and that's a wrong culture to go across into. And if let's say just by smaller things, right? Imagine how many bosses walk into their cabin and put a arm across somebody, knowing that he had a bad fever yesterday, and still remember it and ask about it, right? Those are smaller parts of culture that everyone can incorporate. Saying good morning to your juniors is something that you can also do when they are busy while doing their job. Can you? It's like these. It's not about what impact is certain thing gonna make. It's about how you value them, how you basically on a regular day basis, do you intentionally want to make a great environment for your
Yeah,
employees, for your
yeah,
teammates, for your colleagues. And I think that's what it comes down to. It's not about the money, I'll be very honest, because on day one also we used to do small little things which were so
yeah.
it's basically end of the day. I completely disagree to the fact that it's about money. Of course, so I'll tell you an interesting story. The pool table, right? It's a part of a culture that everything should be achievement. So when the pool table came in, we were given a target of X number to be done. It was a big number. We have never achieved it, to be done in sales so that we get the pool table. You won't believe how hard we worked for that pool table. Like all of us grinded our way across.
Amazing. Yeah. That's a great
And we missed
reward
the target
system.
by
Yeah.
Yeah, we missed the target by 4% actually. And it's our CEO is also like that. He will always try and make sure he's a Banya CEO. He'll try and make sure that he gets things out of everything. So we missed that target by 3%, and everyone was so sad. And next day you see a pool table in the office, and you're like, wow, now we made it. We struggled for 3 months for it. So yeah.
That's amazing, Aditya. I also want to say something very cool that you talked about where you don't have a leave policy. I hear so many founders saying that I want everybody who works for me to treat this like their own company. But let's be honest, we as founders have a lot of benefits. We don't have to apply for leave. We don't have a capped leave, okay, 20 days, 15 days, 30 days, you know. So giving the same benefits to your employees sort of feels like you are actually telling them, hey, this is your company. So then automatically the psyche changes, right? Because you as a founder, nobody's going to ask you to send an email in the morning to take permission. You can say, I didn't come today, whatever. So you're right. You and I love that. I love that. I just learned something amazing today. I'm so like it's just blown my mind away. So anyway, we'll go to
So
the next question
I
because
think
I
very
think we have
interesting
a
thing
lot.
you mentioned, Liz. Sorry to interrupt. But
Yeah.
one thing you mentioned here, like how having ownership of a company is so important. So this is something, and of course now I'm saying it out on public platform. But every time we have a interview or offer letter is rolled out, it is never discussed. But when you join a company and your probation completes, you get share of the company allocated to you. So ESOPs is something that everyone gets, right from the watchman to the office boy to the CEO.
Wow.
And yeah, and people take it to negotiate, but this is a right for every individual in this company, because if you want them to be the owner of the company, they should actually be the owner of the company. And that is
Yeah.
something we never discuss about. And it's a surprise for everyone who joins it. But now people get to know that oh, your probation is going to get over next month, you'll get ESOPs. So
But
now people
still,
get to know it in advance. Yeah.
it's a nice gesture for sure. All right, so I'm quickly going to move into the next question. What do you think that people are doing wrong right
Oh
now?
wow. So I'll be very honest with you. All of us, and it's something that uh, each one of us can see, right? We all do so much wrong in the day, and it is about the appreciation of the right that caters to a lot of us getting inspired, right? So
Wow.
imagine if there is somebody who's wasting a lot of his time on smoke breaks, and which happens so often,
Yeah.
right? And instead of telling people that hey, why are you taking so many smoke breaks, and you should be it's great to applaud somebody who doesn't take so many breaks, and then other people can automatically resonate to it. I'll tell you another thing, like so many times you see people get on meeting and keeping their cameras off, but there are times when all the leaders keep their cameras on, and then that slowly inculcates. So you don't need to speak about it, point it out, because in a way it is very aggressive to do certain things. And in our culture, pointing out things have always been aggressive. Although when you go abroad, I think people take it up in a positive sense, but in India it doesn't happen. And that is something that I have learned through my co-founders, that things need to be mellowed down and put across.
Yeah.
So I think
And
it's
take
always
offense. Yeah, quite easy.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. So why don't you, okay, we're going to wrap this up very quickly. I have a lot more questions to ask, but we will try and wrap this up because otherwise we'll just go on talking. And like I said, culture is definitely something that we can go on talking about. What are tips for people who find themselves then in a toxic work culture? And we're talking about people, who are working, your employees. Chalo, management, we spoke that management can do this, management can do that. And you're right, there are tons of things you can do without putting in any money if you're really invested, if that's what you really want. 100% agree. Now, what are about the people? Say you've got a job, you come in and you're like, oh my God, where am I? But I need the money. Not everybody is so entitled to keep switching jobs. Like you said, you and I, we both experienced that. We come from really humble backgrounds. Having a salary was very important to us, in terms of like, we can't just like let loose and be like, okay, fine, I'm just going to go into the wild and just see how this goes. So there are many people like that. So what would be your like 3 tips for people who find themselves in toxic workplaces?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. First, you can try and influence your workplace culture too, and that is the best that you can possibly do in a toxic work culture. try and influence, of course, make people aware about the facts. Setting up examples could be one thing, but then let's get down to the bottom of the sea. Honestly, why did uh, anybody not choose to go to a government school and go to a CBSE and ICSE school? And I'm saying there are people who went to government schools and did great. Yeah,
Yeah.
there are great examples, right? But then, given a choice, why would somebody choose that?
Yeah.
The answer is very simple. It's a growth. It's the environment that you live in. You grow in a certain aspect. So while you were ready to pay those additional bucks, if you had them for the right growth, be ready to lose, because your culture defines so much about how you're going to grow in your career. So be ready to lose a little bit of bucks just so that you grow at the right pace. And there are ample amount of, see, India is full of opportunities. I am pretty sure a lot of other countries are true. You can always find a better place that pays equal or better and has a great work culture. If not, keep looking for it while you try and influence your culture. uh, if you want to be a part of a big corporate and you cannot adjust to their culture, maybe you're not meant for it, and
Yeah.
let's accept that fact and move on. So I think,
I
I know it's hard to say, because at one point I did work for money and have been a part of a toxic work culture. But then, see, life always gives you paths and ways to figure things out. And when you have a choice to make a good one.
Yeah, and of course we have amazing companies like EMotorad, and I'll be honest with you, I work with some amazing brands that really put their employees first. We had a call with Arjun Vedya from Dr. Vedya's the other day, who talked about work culture. We talked with Kabir from like Sleepy Cat, who also talked about like the people and the brand, and they're so passionate. And then today I'm speaking with you, which is all, these are just examples of people who are like, of course you want to make money, you started a business for that, but are also in sync with the employees and what it takes to grow that. So, Aditya, I'm going to ask another question because I am so enjoying this conversation. You have no idea. Like, we're gone way past, but that's fine. I really need to ask you this question. What would you say to business owners now who do not focus on implementing a healthy culture? Because there are people out there who are like, it doesn't matter. ठीक है ना पैसा बन रहा है, like we're making the money, everything's coming in, I don't really need to bother about whatever, जैसे चल रहा है, it's fine. And they go home and they are living their amazing life, like have the money, whatever it is. We're not going to go into details, but what would you say to them?
So, to every business owner who kickstarts, and to every founder, first of all, I'll tell you, every founder who have had great culture have put culture as a priority for them, right? And they all have looked at culture, be like, when I make my company stand out, it's going to have the best culture. Like, we all want it. Like, if you talk to Arjun Vaidya, probably he wanted same for his company.
Yeah.
We all wanted to be best in this aspect, because there is so much you can probably do about it. On the other hand, let us look at it from a logical point of view. All the gigantic companies, because when you start a business, of course you want to become one of the best in your field, right? All the best in the field companies, you might find their business models can be different, their revenue stream can be different, their they could be technology based, they could be product based, they could be n number of differences. But one thing that you'll find in common in them is they all have had great cultures. Today, company like Tata in India is known for great culture. Today, a company like Google is dominating the world because of the great work culture. If you have a great work culture, you will end up getting more productivity out of each employee. He will be happy to go to work, and end of the day, you have to walk into the same space too. You should be able to enjoy it. Your employees are like your babies, right? It's like your family, and if they are not enjoying something, how can you live with it? And I think that's one thing we should keep in mind. If you can make a great work culture come together, I think the results are going to be drastically amazing. And you won't know it until you have that culture, or you work that as a part of such culture, right? And that is something that I can tell hands on, being a part of both sides of the equation. I think it's just a completely different feeling every time you have an achievement come through. So I often see this in our teams too. Like, every time you win something or somebody in the team wins something, it is something celebrated across the organization. It was just that person doing the job, but we as a team have won it. And I think that celebration goes way in, and then everybody wants to achieve something more, and you become a achiever based organization. A bureaucratic a more bureaucratic environment is only going to take you so far. So guys, if you have a great work culture in place, I think things are going to be amazing.
Preach it. I love it. I love everything that we've talked about today. In fact, it's really, I always felt like I was I promoted workplace culture enough, but today I've met someone I think who's taken it to another level and actually implemented it and seen it change and has all the numbers and has everything in place to do that. Like I always talk to obviously the smaller businesses, and I always say, let it go, let it be. Like fine, like stop being petty because pettiness gives you pettiness.
So true. That's so true.
Yeah, I'm just being strict here, but I just feel like we need to look beyond those little things like leave and micromanagement and pay and FNFs and can we deduct amounts and how strict we can be. And it's like you said, you're walking into that environment and you said, they are like your family, like your babies. Would you walk into a room with crying babies or would you walk into a room with happy babies? It's noise on both ends, but it's the type of noise, right? Wow. So I think that was great. And I learned this today from you. And as an analogy, I'm going to use constantly. Thank you so much. But Aditya, thank you so much for being on this. It was really eye opening. And it's amazing to see a company like you guys doing so much. And you're absolutely right. Doesn't take a lot of money, just takes the intent. Intent is everything. Yeah. And
That's so true. Yes, that's so true. And first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. And secondly, I really want to applaud you that I think many people in India need to talk about culture and value culture as much as you do. And if these things come into picture, I think that's when change will start to happen across society.
well, let's hope we can do that here. And anyone that has any questions, obviously for Aditya, you can get in touch with us anytime. Anyone who has any questions for me, please get in touch and we'll connect you with Aditya. And Aditya, I wish you all the best. I'm so excited for your journey, like I said, and I hope Lizanne Careers is a part of it in some form or the other, because I think, in terms of the way we look at things, we're like very, very like resonate on a lot of things, which is great to see founders like you. It's always like I'm just like, yes, we're moving in the right direction. So thank you so much for today. It was like a great chat and hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Liz. You have a great day and wish you all the very best. And let's see what change can we bring.
Thank you so much. Bye.